Okay, I guess we might as well start. Let me begin with the agenda. There are some amendments. The first is that under discussions, where we had the DC Office of Finance, they can't make it tonight. They've rescheduled for the next meeting, so we'll have them at our June meeting. And under official actions, we're going to delete a 5059 Glenbrook Terrace from our agenda tonight and bring it up next month. And we're going to delete Palisades Park Slide from the agenda. Other than that, I think that, yes, Commissioner Elkins.
I'd like us to have a discussion and possible another letter to the director of DDOT regarding the bioretention facilities.
Very good. In commission business or official actions?
Let's have it in official actions.
Okay. Any other additions or subtractions? All right. So I move the agenda with the deletions and the addition stated. All in favor? 4-0. So that's the agenda. Let's move to the updates. Officer Tony McElwee is here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me again, as always. It's good to see everybody. Um, I recognize mostly everybody on here, but I always like to say I'm Officer McAwee. I'm your traffic officer slash kind of community liaison officer, and I'm happy to be here. I'm going to present to you our monthly crime report for the last 30 days in PSA 205. I'm happy to say that our offenses were down this month to 12 offenses that were reported. One was assault with a dangerous weapon, one stolen auto, 8 theft from autos, and 2 general thefts. I'll start off with the assault with a dangerous weapon. Basically, it was a road rage incident that occurred on May 1st at approximately 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon at the intersection of 45th and Massachusetts Avenue. There was an exchange between two victims that were walking, apparently, and the driver, which was described as a white male, no description of the vehicle was provided, tried to drive towards them, which makes the vehicle a dangerous weapon. Neither of the victims were struck, and our detectives are looking over cameras and stuff near the area. The stolen auto occurred on April 14th. The victim reported that his 2024 Lexus was stolen from his driveway or from in front of his house, 4400 block of Q Street. We had seven theft from autos, and I'm going to put out the locations out there just in case some of our listeners live within, nearby, or around some of these targeted areas or these areas that were affected. We'll start off with 5100 Tilden and 4700 block of Tilden. 5100 block of Tilden was on May 5th at approximately 2:30 p.m. And most of these were daytime, afternoon incidents. The 4700 Tilden was on April 13th. This was between 8:30 a.m. and 12:15 a.m. 5400 block of Macomb Street on April 28th at 4 p.m. 3000 block of 45th Street on April 23rd at 12:10 p.m. 4800 block of Upton Street on April 13th at 11 a.m. 4400 block of Greenwich Parkway on April 15th between 8:30 and 11:30 a.m. and the 4300 block of Forest Lane on April 10th between 7 and 10 a.m. The stolen items were the usual: purses, backpacks, and tools. One vehicle was left unlocked. 3 of the vehicles had their windows smashed out to gain entry, and 2 of the vehicles were contractor vehicles where the suspects pried the door locks to gain entry. While I'm on the topic of the contractors' vehicles, the contractor vehicles that are being struck are like advertised on the side of these vans, say Joe's Contractor, Tony's Contractor Service. So that's the ones that they're targeting when they see them pull up and left unattended. If you have contractors working at your homes or businesses, please ask them to park as close to your home or the business as possible to avoid becoming victims. These individuals they're scouting out for these vehicles, and we've seen an uptick in these contractor tool thefts. And just a reminder to everyone: when you lock your cars when you park them. Remove your items from plain view, because that's what we're seeing. If the vehicles are locked, there's nothing in them, they go on to the next vehicle until they see something, like a backpack or a purse. We had two general thefts. One of those thefts occurred at MacArthur High School on MacArthur Boulevard, and a theft from a storage room at the St. Patrick's Episcopal Church on Whitehaven Parkway. Traffic report, I focused on the 4,500 to the 5,000 block of MacArthur Boulevard for all kinds of violations, mainly speeding and other areas that I targeted. I know Commissioner Elkins, I moved it over to 44th and Cathedral last month and wrote 7 tickets out there. Ward Circle for the inner circle turns, which Canal Road during rush hour, Massachusetts Avenue to 4900 block. And if you're wondering how many tickets we wrote in the 2nd District last month, we wrote a total of 374. Out of those 374, I wrote 91 of them. 26 of them were for speeding alone on MacArthur Boulevard. With that said, I'm open for questions, complaints, concerns.
I have a question. Since our last meeting, we saw the story of the theft ring, the indictment of the car theft ring that supposedly was responsible for 100 automobiles. Do we know if those were any of there was a little spate about 2 months ago, including a theft on Galena Place, whether the indictment affected, was what any of those recent thefts were by that ring? Do we have any idea?
I spoke to our auto theft expert, Officer Pancoast, and he said, there's similarities there that they see connected. And he also said, since this ring has been identified, we had our theft from our stolen autos have gone down. Like last month, we had 4 versus the 1 this month. Now we don't. I asked him if he knew this recent one was connected, and he has no evidence of that at this point.
Okay.
If you want to send me an email, and I'll connect you up with him. He can give you more details on that. He's the expert.
Okay. Thank you. Yep.
Yes, and thanks for bringing that up.
Yep.
Mine, I'm not sure if this falls under MPD or fire EMS, but there was a fire at MacArthur and V, maybe in a trash can. One of the benches was burned.
I didn't hear about it, but that would be handled by the board, the fire board.
Okay.
And because it's at MacArthur Boulevard, we probably responded for traffic control.
Okay. I don't know what happened there.
I'll look into it for you, though, Commissioner Duncan.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, I'm going to put in my chat box my email address for vacation checks and any other questions that you may want to bring up to me. I can always answer by email. And I thought I saw Gordon out there. Is Gordon out there? Gordon, I see him out there. I'm going to send you an email. I'm sorry, I kind of slowed down on your last request I looked at it, but I'm having trouble finding it. But I'm going to send you an email in reference to last year's mailbox theft. So I didn't forget you on that. So stand by for that email tomorrow. Other than that, anything else for us? Any concerns? Traffic complaints?
Any questions? No, that seems good.
Thank you. Everybody stay safe, and I'm going to get in your chat room.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much.
Thank you.
Let's turn to our moker, Mr. Cox.
Good evening, everyone. My name is William Owen Cox. I'm the Ward 3 liaison for the Mayor's Office for Community Relations and Services. Just one announcement tonight. We will be having a roll-off this weekend on Saturday. Roll-off is where DPW will provide a large 40-foot dumpster, and you can come by and drop off anything ranging from bulk items, old furniture, rugs, wrapped mattresses, old toys, things like that. You can dump it in the dumpster, and the city will take it away for free. So it will be Saturday, 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. at Guy Mason Recreation Center in the parking lot. So please come by and get rid of your stuff that you don't need. I'll be here for any questions, though, in case anyone wants more details, but I'll add the info into the chat about the roll-off.
Very good. Commissioner Elkins?
Your mention of waste brought to mind a terrible experience I had on Thursday when I had signed up to go to the hazardous waste place where you drop off things, and I had an appointment between 12 and 12:30, and expected once I got over there, which was a half-hour drive, that I might have 15 minutes or something. I got there at 12:10, and I left there at 1:30. The line was at least a mile long, maybe longer, and it was moving along, um, a foot or two every minute. I mean, it was just horrible. It was understaffed. There were understaffed on the one hand. There was staff standing around doing nothing. In other places, I'm afraid that everybody who came and spent all that time to drop off their hazardous waste, which they could have just thrown in their trash can, they're not coming back. I mean, why would anybody drive over half an hour to spend an hour and a half in line, um, and just watch the department slow walk the whole thing? It was just awful. So, um, I've written the director of DPW, but I'm bringing it to your attention because at the higher levels, I think this was just a total disaster. And the reason it's particularly important because they have another one scheduled very soon. I've forgotten when. And if they don't staff it, you're just to turn more and more people off to hazardous waste, which is really, we spend a lot of time in this city trying to get people to be sensitive to hazardous waste.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but thank you for bringing it to my attention and for reaching out to the leadership. I'm sure
I
that.
haven't heard back, by the way. No reply
Gotcha.
from the director.
Okay. I'll definitely make a
I
note of
wrote
that.
that afternoon, so that was, he's had a little time to read it.
Do you remember which day that you went?
Went on Thursday.
Gotcha. Okay.
The whatever date it was,
The
Thursday last,
the 30th.
April 28th or whatever it was. I don't have my April calendar in front of me.
Yep. Yep.
They don't have them very often. They only have about 4 or 5 or a year, so that's why everybody showed up. But I thought they all had an appointment.
They may have it. Maybe they got swamped that day, but I'll just flag that to the mayor's team so that she's aware, and I'll see if they can get a response from the director for you.
Well, more importantly, can they try to make sure the next one, which is scheduled a little bit later this month, is staffed?
Yeah, I'll flag the concerns about the wait times and the staffing issues, of course.
Commissioner Simkowitz?
Thank you, Commissioner Horn, and thank you, Commissioner Elkins, for bringing this to our attention. This is a humongous deal, especially with lithium batteries that are easy to throw away in a trash can, but extremely hazardous forget the environment, for the people that work in the trash facilities, because if those things catch fire, they burn up really fast. They burn everything around it, and our city, and in fact, most cities, don't do enough to make it easy to dispose of these things. And lithium batteries are in everything today. And I think this might be something that we as a commission should be working on to alert the city to the need to have a disposal site in every public library, in every firehouse, someplace that's easy for people to get to, because as Commissioner Elkins said, people are just going to get frustrated and just throw this in the trash can, which would be disastrous for everybody.
Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Cox.
Sure. I'll also be posting on the listserv with more details in every listserv in Ward 3. So for more details on the roll-off as well. So expect to see that today or tomorrow.
Very good. Let's move to Councilmember Matt Fruman's office. Ms. Charles?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So at council, we're currently in the thick of the budget process. And today, Councilmember Fruman chaired his hearing on the Department of Human Services featuring testimony from government witnesses. Last week was all the public witnesses. Upcoming dates for this budget season, through May 12th are agency budget oversight hearings, which continue, and this is the best time for public input. May 13th is the budget legislative hearing. May 18th, May 20th through 22nd are the committee markups. So that's when committees will make their specific changes to the Budget Support Act and the budget legislation. May 27th is the council member budget work session. June 9th is the first budget vote. June 23rd is the second and final budget vote. I'll put that in the chat as well. Committee on Human Services next date is Thursday, May 21st from 11 to 12 is our committee markup. And residents can view more information about budget hearings on the council website, lims.dccouncil.gov/hearings, and I'll put that in the chat. You can all watch the Committee on Human Services live on our YouTube channel and all the other archived committee hearings and other hearings on the Hearing Management System archives. Our next workday in the ward is in Cleveland Park, so it's coming up on Thursday, May 28th. These are monthly events, and they're a great way for our team and the council member to meet with residents in the ward. We'll be setting up at Dolan Uyghur from 8 a.m. actually to 5 p.m. And the council member will be in the morning for coffee with the council member from 8 to 10, I believe. And then other staffers will be there at various hours the rest of the day, along with agency partners. This will be an informal time to chat, ask questions, or share concerns. Constituent staff will also be available, and stay tuned for the district agencies that will be on site that day. Walk-ins are always welcomed, and we'll have an official sign-in form and the full schedule of agencies in attendance, which I can send you when we know. That's all from us.
Very good. Are there any questions? Seeing none, let's move on to our universities. Laura Marks from American University.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me this evening. It was great to see Commissioner Elkins testifying online earlier. So thank you for zooming in and sharing your thoughts with the committee. That was great to see. Just had a couple of things I wanted to share and some additional dates and events I'll drop into the chat. AU has its commencement coming up starting on Friday. So Friday, May 8th, Saturday, May 9th, and then the following Saturday, May 16th, are commencement dates at the university. So you'll see increased traffic and guests. Our shuttle will still be operating, but parking on campus will be limited. So we can share the full details for those days, but just good to be aware of it as you're traveling through the area. I wanted to send a special thanks to Commissioner Nowak, who is not on here this evening, but she was one of our hosts for kicking off our neighbor dinner series with the community. We were able to host 2 dinners toward the end of April, matching neighbors, with students who are interested in building that relationship and having a chance to sort of eat together and get to know each other. And I was hoping to be able to tell her thank you in person, but we had really great reports from our hosts and from the students. So this is a program we'll be looking to expand in the fall. So thank you to everyone who has already volunteered to host, but we'll be putting the call back out to the community again in the fall. And since Corey's on here, a thank you to Georgetown for pioneering this program. And we are very glad to follow on their coattails and bring that program to AU. Happy to answer any questions, and I'll just add some additional information in the chat.
Right? Are there any questions?
Laura, can we also update this commission about the order that was issued today?
Oh, yeah, breaking news. I'm sure coincidentally with the zoning commission having their budget hearing today, but we did finally receive our zoning order for our sports center renovation that came through this afternoon. So that will allow us to move forward and start filing for our permits so we can go ahead and get that work started. So thank you very much for the community support, the AU Neighborhood Partnership support for that project, and to Sherry for reminding me to mention it. So looking forward to getting that started.
Right. Are there any questions? Seeing none, let's move to George Washington. Mr. Days.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for letting me join you tonight. I'm joined by the Dean of the Mount Vernon campus, and I want to give her an opportunity to introduce herself. She's been here for a little bit over a year, maybe almost two, but we have not had a chance for you to meet her. So I thought I'd take a few minutes now and let you introduce herself. Betsy, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Betsy Schimberg. I'm an assistant dean at GW, and I am the dean of the Mount Vernon campus. And I did actually, not to contradict you, Kevin, but I did have a chance to meet some commissioners when you came to the campus so a while ago for conversation, and delighted to be here tonight.
Great, thanks, Betsy. So I just have a couple of quick updates. We're going to make a presentation on a request for slightly larger shuttle vehicles. But two quick updates that I have is the university under Betsy's direction has launched the Stitch Studio. This is a new textile maker space on Mount Vernon campus, and it's equipped with materials for sewing, knitting, crocheting, mending, and the studio is currently welcoming donations for its creative resources. So if you have some stuff you want to contribute, reach out to Betsy. We'll put our contact information in the chat. The Mount Vernon campus, although we're at the end of our semester, graduation is coming up soon, but the campus will remain active throughout the summer. We'll be hosting high school students who will be participating in pre-college programs. And additionally, there will be GW students who are remaining in the district over the summer to work on local internships. This is the time I also want to do my plug for the Mount Vernon pool that's reopening again for the summer season. And it's you need to have a membership, but we will put the link for that membership in the chat. Like many of the universities, our graduations, commencement ceremonies are occurring within the next couple of weeks. GW's is occurring on Sunday, May 17th at the mall. I am happy to say that I will be participating in that as a student. I've just completed my MPA. So we're super excited about getting to not have to work graduation, but to experience it firsthand. And then I'll leave the updates for the shuttle to the later point, but I think I'm done. If there are any questions or concerns, please share them.
I have questions about that donations for the textile thing. Can you put in the chat what you're actually collecting? Because people in this neighborhood, if you're looking for like textiles or something, I think that might be something that the neighborhood could really benefit from themselves.
That would be great. And yarn.
And yarn. Okay.
I'll put some things in the chat. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Right? Commissioner Elkins, does that answer your question?
Did I have a question?
Your hand was up for?
No, I was clapping for the degree that Miss Today's got and all the work that I'm sure went into it.
I
Thank you.
think it was an applause that was
It was
going up.
applause. Right.
My wife and my family are happy that I'm finished because now I'll be more available for chores.
Right.
Great. Are there any other questions or comments? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's move
We'll be
on
back
to,
later.
yes, Georgetown University, Mr. Peterson.
Hi, Chair Horn. Good to see you all today. As you mentioned, Corey Peterson, AVP for Community Engagement and Local Government Affairs. Two two announcements. One is we have started our annual Georgetown University Move Out Drive. So as I heard our MOCR Owen Cox talk about the roll-off dumpster that will be over at the park this weekend, our Move Out Drive started on May 4th, continues through June 1st. This is an opportunity where you can fill out a form. Our university trucks will actually come to your house or remove that bulk trash for you. Or if it's time to do some spring cleaning and you've got some clothes or furniture or other items you'd like to donate, we work with a number of local organizations here in the DC metro region to get those goods donated. I'll put this information in the chat so you can find the website, you can find the form to sign up on. But we manage to divert hundreds of thousands of pounds each year, or over the course of it, I should say, not each year, but from landfills. And it's just an awesome opportunity. Secondly, with commencement weekend, similar to American and my colleagues at American and GW, our commencement weekend will be May 14th through the 17th. So you'll see an increased amount of traffic coming in and out of our Canal Road entrance. And we appreciate your flexibility and patience as we celebrate our graduates. And a special shout out to Kevin for graduating with his master's. That's amazing. I'll drop that information in the chat as well, as long as my contact information, and then I'll be back a little later with my colleague Katie to talk about our boathouse.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Peterson? Seeing none, let's move on. Ms. Rutherford, did you want to give us any update about St. Patrick's?
Sure. Thank you very much for recognizing me. I'd be happy to give a brief update. St. Patrick's is continuing ongoing discussions with residents of 1801 Foxhall and Colony Hill, the Colony Hill neighborhood, regarding use of the Foxhall field, which we talked about last time I was here, as well as some transportation concerns, particularly around Holborn Road, that have come up amongst members of that community. We followed up with Officer McElwee, who's been very helpful. Councilmember Fruman's office. I know JP, you've been involved in this conversation as well. So trying to figure out the best approach to deal with some traffic calming and to avoid cut through traffic on that street. So those are some ongoing conversations that are continuing. We're also following up on some issues regarding just general parking and traffic related to the new middle school project. That have been raised by members of this commission as well as other neighbors. And so those are issues that will be reflected in our CTR, which is under development. And we'd like to address in more detail with the Transportation Subcommittee of the ANC at an upcoming meeting. And I can work with Trisha, you and Chuck on whether it makes sense to do that at the May meeting or the June meeting when we have, again, a bit more have advanced that work a bit more. But we are absolutely responding to the concerns and questions that have come up on those issues. And then finally, our application has not yet been filed, but I do expect that to happen hopefully in the coming week. And then once that's filed, I don't know that we'll be able to give you a hearing date right away. We are still in limbo with the BZA, unfortunately. Very unfortunate situation with the lack of the quorum. But as soon as we do, we will then work with you to schedule an appropriate timing for a full presentation to the ANC, as well as hopefully, getting your support for that project as it moves forward to a hearing. That is it. I'm happy to answer any questions. JP?
Yes, Commissioner Simkowitz.
Thank you, Ms. Rutherford. I don't want to take all the credit. Commissioner Nowak was actively helping 1801 and Colony Hill with this particular plan. And the traffic calming measure that's been requested by Colony Hill in 1801 is that stop sign at 45th and Hoban. And that's something, in my opinion, is separate and apart from St. Patrick's. I mean, it's nice that St. Patrick's is supporting the community on that, but that's something that we're going to have to address separate and apart from St. Patrick's. So Thank you for helping to the extent that you and St. Patrick's can, but we do need to bring this to the to our transportation subcommittee. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yes, Commissioner Duncan?
Yes, I just want to, I don't know how this is going to be resolved, but I am very interested in that field being opened up to use. And there seems to be a third party agreement that the ANC doesn't have access to. That is the opposite of that. Um, we are the biggest exporter of athletes. We're 3D is. We export more of our child athletes than any other area in the entire ward because we don't have a lot of field space. And one of my things with the approving the expansion of the field school field and St. Patrick's Field, I thought we might be able to open this up more. And I just want to put out there that I am seeing an issue here where we have the ANC possibly wanting something and the neighbors wanting something else. And I'm hoping that we can work this out, but I just feel like in a public forum, I need to put that out there.
And I very much appreciate that. As St. Patrick's indicated at our community meetings, revisiting use of the Foxhall Field is something that's very important to St. Patrick's, and St. Patrick's wants to be part of the solution to providing access to quality green spaces and athletic fields for district and youth sports, and much in the spirit of what the field school did last year. You are correct. There is an independent agreement with neighbors that was executed in 2006 that limits the use of Foxhall Field. And those are the conversations I mentioned earlier in my remarks about the going on with Colony Hill and the 1801 Foxhall are trying to address those issues. And we are working hard to try to balance the commitments that the school made in 2006 with a forward-looking approach to use of the field that takes into account the impacts on those immediately impacted neighbors. So I thank you very much for those comments, Commissioner Duncan. I completely hear you. I'll make sure I let the school know your strong feelings on this. And I really also hope we can come to a solution on this issue.
Commissioner Simkowitz?
Thank you for bringing this up, Commissioner Duncan. This has been a big deal for the community. As we know, our friend Nick Keenan, when he was with Stoddard Soccer, had a problem getting fields for our young kids who want to learn how to play soccer. And Commissioner Nowak and I have been working with St. Patrick's to try to enter into a situation where the impact in the neighborhood will be minimal, if at all. And this was brought to my attention during the pandemic when the French embassy called me and said they wanted a place for their employees to play soccer during their lunch break. And St. Patrick's was willing to do it, I think, but they were bound by this agreement that we had nothing to do with at the ANC. So that's one of the things that we're going to have to address when the plan does come to us. And Ms. Rutherford, I know that you've been very helpful with this, and I hope that we continue because having a field sitting vacant is a really horrible waste of resources.
Thank you.
Commissioner Elkins?
I'm a little concerned about the process here. First of all, I want to say that at the meeting that St. Patrick's had with the community, it was a virtual one, I think, that I attended. I was very impressed by the fact that the school was quite willing to sit down with the neighbors who are being most impacted by that field and try to work through things. So those things. So I'm very supportive of that. But I also agree with Commissioner Duncan that there are larger community issues here. And I'm not sure how the larger community issues are going to be dealt with procedurally here. I'm a little worried, and you can maybe disabuse me of this, Sherry, is that this issue will come forward to the ANC. We'll be asked to vote on something, and right there is some kind of agreement that you've reached with the local communities that are most affected by noise, et cetera, and light. And what are we supposed to do? I mean, without any prior consultation or input to that, and also, it's not just us. We're just representing people who care about the larger issue.
Sure.
They need to be heard. And so I don't know whether you're prepared to address the procedural issue here, but I raised this. It's not just a matter of Commissioner Duncan needing to be heard. It's the larger community issue here, and it's a hard balance, but I'm sure it can be achieved.
So thank you for that as well. So again, as the school made clear at the meeting that you attended, it is our hope that to expand that use, but we are bound by the terms of an agreement that predates anyone who's at the school right now. And I mean, it is a binding legal agreement. So we need to, work within the four corners of that. At the same time, I can commit to, the commissioners right now, you will not be blindsided by anything we put in front of you. Our effort is now to try to work in good faith with the parties to that agreement and come up with a plan that does allow for, and it could be an incremental approach to expanded use, but to make sure that we do revisit those issues. It is a different time. I have the benefit of working with schools throughout this district on these issues regarding access to green space and field space, and it is critically important. I truly do understand that, and the school does as well. So our procedurally, our hope is to, try to come to an agreement with the parties to the agreement, and then before I would certainly bring this in a public meeting to the ANC, as I always do, work with the commissioners and let you know sort of where that stands and bring you into that discussion as well. So please don't think that you'll be sort of, blindsided by anything coming out of these agreements. I really hope to get to some place where we can all see a beneficial path forward. But it is, I mean, we inherited an agreement, and the school is bound by that. So please be assured that we are doing everything we can to come up with a path forward that will work for the immediate neighbors who are in fact, most impacted by that activity, but does take into account the broader concerns of the community as well.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Commissioner Simkowitz?
I'm not sure that the community can't move to rescind that agreement if the ANC was not a part of that. I think that would be void against public policy. Commissioner Elkins may have some more insight on that, but that's one thing we should be looking at.
I'm sorry, I didn't really understand your point, JP, and I want to make sure I do. I think you're right. I don't think the ANC was a party to that agreement, and I agree it was a legal agreement that has to be dealt with by the school. So I thought.
Well, the question that I have, and I don't know the answer to this, is are we at the ANC bound by a private agreement between a school on the one hand and a group of neighbors on the other, when that neighbor, when the school is going for a change to their campus plan? And I don't think that we're bound by respecting that agreement. I think that we can go to the Board of Zoning and say, we want this, and let them put that in the zoning order, whatever it is we want, forget the soccer field.
Well, that's an interesting point. I guess I would hope we don't come to have to disagree with the local neighbors, but yes, but I guess we'll have to come to that at some.
Yeah, and that's not just for this particular case. I can see it happening in other
Right.
permits around the city or requests. So we should be thinking about that. But of course, we don't want to do anything with St. Patrick's that's going to hurt the surrounding neighbors. I mean, that's the last thing we want to do. We want to get to an agreement where everybody's happy, and that's what we're working with Mr. Rutherford to achieve. Me and Commissioner Nowak.
Certainly hope that that's the case. Yes.
I hope that is the case also. But when I'm looking at this from the point of view of the ANC, when we're trying to be nice, we don't have a copy of this agreement. Does it have an end date? It's already 20 years old. And St. Patrick's is not building a high school or a middle school over there on that side of Foxhall. They're building the middle school on Whitehaven. This whole agreement, as far as I've been told, although I've never read it, was based on the fact that the schools were going to be built over there. Now there is a field there, so there's like some kind of improvements, but I can't help but think we're just being held hostage by this 20-year-old agreement that was based on a plan that's no longer a plan. And so obviously I want to work with the neighbors, but I feel like I represent a larger constituency here than that.
Absolutely. And I would seek your indulgence as we work through these issues, and we will absolutely, like I said, bring them to the ANC. And it is my hope and intent and purpose to get to an agreement that everyone can live with. But just please know that, as I've stated before, and as the school has clearly stated, it is their desire to expand use of the field to beyond what it is today. But to work with the neighbors to get to an agreement where our folks can be assured that any impacts will be mitigated. And the school stands very strongly behind, working with those immediate neighbors to make sure that their concerns are addressed, such that, concerns about parking, about noise, about things like that, the school is absolutely committed to making this work for everyone. And so again, that's why I'm here, and that's what I will endeavor to do over the coming weeks, and make sure that I report to you all in advance of when we formally present. So again, you will not be surprised by anything you see from St. Patrick's.
Commissioner Simkowitz?
Can you share that agreement with us?
So I would have to ask the other party to the agreement. It is a private agreement. So I will be happy to ask Colony Hill if they're willing to have that agreement made public.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
Thank you for your time. I'm sorry to have taken so much of your time this evening, but
Oh,
thank you.
no, it's an important issue, and thank you so much for working on this. So is there any other institution that I'm missing before we move on to commissioner updates? I don't think so. Why don't we start with Commissioner Elkins?
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Duncan?
I have a bit of good news. The slide at the Palisades Park has been missing, broken, whatever, for almost 3 years. And there was this big push. We were going to do this big fundraising thing. I reached out to DPR, DPW, and they came back and they have contracted out for the slide, and it should be installed by July 22nd. And that's a huge update for the neighborhood. So let's hope that that date sticks. It sounds like the stormwater is going to be on the agenda, but I just wanted everyone to know that DDOT has informed us that all of the installations are done and the landscaping portion should be complete in the next 2 weeks. It turns out that 3 of the installations that they put in actually are built for bioretention, and they will be planted for bioretention. And it's my understanding that the contractor is going to do what we always thought. They're going to establish the plantings and get them watered and established, and then DOEE will take over 18 months from now. It's been very frustrating. They did tell me that they're not going to rip them out. And I am very anxious to hear what Chuck has to say, because I am finding this whole thing very exhausting and irritating. Those are my updates.
Very good. Commissioner Blumenthal.
I have one small thing I just want to share that this ANC, before I was a member of it, sent multiple letters to DDOT about the Google Waze navigate about the problems at the MacArthur, Arizona intersection generally, but one specific was the way Google Maps and Waze were directing people through our neighborhoods during a no through traffic period. It's now May, and it's very clear that they finally did make this change in January. And that, along with the end of the construction on the GW Parkway, has made I hope others have experienced marked difference in the both congestion at the intersection and the cut through traffic generally. It's not that it's no longer a problem, it's now a somewhat different problem, but the stories that we heard and that I shared about neighbors who couldn't get out of their parking spaces and couldn't get off their block because the torrent of traffic was coming down either Carolina or whatever, that is behind us. In fact, there was an accident the middle of April on the chain bridge, heard the sirens, saw notes on next door and all the rest about a big accident that was right in the middle of the no through traffic hours, and nothing was directed. Like I was bracing for the massive backup, and it was pretty bad on MacArthur and didn't come down our block. So just celebrate one victory. Good to be the squeaky wheel on that.
Very good. I have two things in my report. First is that there's been some concern on the listserv about the Office of Planning's 2050 zoning plan, which would make zoning more dense on MacArthur. We're going to have them present to us at the next meeting. So we'll get a good update and presentation. The second is that I testified before Councilmember Matt Fruman's committee on a city bill to legalize online casino gambling. That is, you can play slot machines on your phone, and I testified against that. But I don't know. Seems like that there's considerable interest in legalizing online casino gambling. Commissioner Simkowitz?
Commissioner Horn, thank you for testifying on that issue. I think that this gambling is going to be the downfall of our society and sports in general. It's just horrible. I think you're starting to see games being the points being shaven so that bets can be made, and it's never going to happen with a superstar athlete. It'll be somebody on the way up or their way down, and it's bad for everybody. So thank you.
All right.
Chairman Horn, I forgot to mention that the next Transportation Committee meeting is Tuesday, May 19th from 2 p.m. to 3:30, and I put that in the chat.
Very good. So this is the community issues and concerns portion. If you'd like to raise an issue that's not on the agenda, this is the time to do so. If you want to speak, we ask you to limit your comments to 2 minutes. Is there anybody that wants to speak at this time? Usually the answer is no, and I see no one. So why don't we go on to the next thing. So we don't have a discussion this month. We're going to go directly to official actions. And the first one is the Georgetown Boathouse presentation. I'm the moving party. I wrote the letter. What I'd like to do is to let the university do its presentation, and then I will make a motion to adopt the letter that's on our website. So, Corey?
Good evening. Thank you for having us back again. I am joined by my colleague, Katie Button, who has been leading this project for the university, and I'm going to turn it over to Katie to do our presentation.
Thanks for having us back. I'm Katie Button. I'm the Associate Vice President for Federal Government Relations at Georgetown, and have been working with Corey and our outside counsel, Dave Avitable, on this project for about 8 years. We are, knock on wood, really getting close to the finish line in terms of getting all of this codified through zoning, through the DC Council, through the Park Service. We're back to you again. We came before you in March when we filed our notice of intent for zoning, and now we have filed our zoning application and have a hearing on July 23rd. And so wanted to share a few brief updates, and I'll go through this I need to share my screen if I can be allowed to do that. I don't know. Someone needs to allow me to share.
You should be good now.
Okay. Great. Thank you. So some of this, this sharing stop. Let me try again. Okay. Again, this is to review with you all our zoning application and the campus plan amendment. And just to flag, and Chairman Horn, you may already know this, but the zoning case number is 16-18, the letter I, not one. We had some confusion about that before 2E the other night. So I'll provide just a quick update in terms of where we are on the overall project. There's not much of a design update since we saw you in March, but I'll just very briefly share the design. We have made a lot of progress with DDOT in terms of what the stretch of Water Street in front of the boathouse location will look like, especially in terms of protecting bicycle traffic. We'll walk through our zoning application and the relief we need on that, and then take any questions that you all have. And I will be as brief as possible, but also happy to answer any and all questions you might have. So we did, when we last saw you, it was in March, because we were going, we had filed our notice of intent and we were going back to OGB and the CFA for concept design approval. We received both of those in March. On Monday night, we appeared before ANC 2E, and they provided a unanimous resolution in support of our zoning application and the campus plan amendment. Obviously, we're here before you tonight. We'll go back to OGB in early July for design development review. Again, our zoning hearing is late July. Sometime over the summer, the DC Council legislation will be introduced, and over the fall, we anticipate hearings and full consideration of the legislation. Also over the summer and fall, kind of in parallel, the Park Service will be processing a transfer of jurisdiction. This involves several, lots that are under Park Service jurisdiction currently. We then anticipate about 2 years of entitlements and permitting, and then about 2 years of construction. So these, you are probably familiar with this. On the far left is a site that Georgetown has owned for years, and it comes with an easement along the Capitol Crescent Trail. And then the two sites that are involved are kind of part of this non-motorized boathouse zone created by the Park Service, known as sites D and E. They're currently a mix of jurisdiction between the city and the Park Service. The city actually has underlying jurisdiction of parts of this area that will come back to the city from the Park Service. So what this will look like after all the legal processes play out is that we will donate our upriver site to the Park Service, which will allow them a several 100-mile long uninterrupted stretch of land. We will gain control of Site D to build the Georgetown Boathouse, and the city will regain control and jurisdiction of Site E, and have committed to put that towards community use related to access to the water. So a community boathouse or something else like that is their commitment for that site. This kind of the red triangle or rectangle is the area we're talking about. And just to help you locate, there's the car barn. Here's the Aqueduct Bridge, Key Bridge Boat, or sorry, the Potomac Boat Club, 3 privately owned townhouses, and then a Park Service concessionaire operates a kayak and canoe rental facility on the site currently. That will move here to the west of the aqueduct, so we'll be activating another site in that area for public use. This is the rendering that you saw in March of what the boathouse will look like. We got some good feedback last July from OGB and incorporated that into this newer design. The only thing that will change when we go back to OGB in July, and we're happy to bring that back to you, is we're having to build to the 500-year floodplain, which actually is kind of at the base of the second floor of our building. And so there are going to be some accommodations we have to make from the environmental side. We actually have to kind of have openings on the side of the building to allow water to access that ground floor. We'll be designing the ground floor, assuming it will flood. It's called wet flood proofing. And so you have to kind of have access points for the water so there's not too much pressure on any other entry point. So that's really the only design change that you'll see kind of in the immediate future. This is just another view from the east side, and you can see under the bridge here is a ramp to a 50-foot long dock that will be for public paddler access. When the team is practicing, the public will be able to access this ramp. When the team is not practicing, the public will actually be able to launch kayaks and paddleboards from the main dock. This is the rendering from the Water Street side. And just another interesting note, these arched windows are actually designed to be able to evacuate the shells out onto the street if there is kind of a flood, or if DDOT is doing construction on the bridge, but they're also meant to reflect the arch of the aqueduct as well. And then this is just a little further up Water Street. This is just kind of the site layout from above. Again, you can see the ramp and the public paddler launch here. Also, just a flag, we'll have bike racks here. Primarily, we anticipate all students will use those. They will all bike or jog down to practice. Our coaches will be provided parking further to the east on Water Street. We'll rent spots for them, and in a building, there's no parking on this site, and there's very limited public parking on the streets. So we've committed to ANC 2E to provide parking for them elsewhere. And then just because this will come up in some of the Water Street designs I'm going to show you, these are the trailers that we use to take our shells to away regattas. And so we've reached an agreement with DDOT to have access to this space under the Key Bridge to store those shells, and have figured out some very intricate turnarounds to get those out into the street and loaded, which I'll show you in a few minutes. And then I believe we shared this with you also, but just to recap, again, the main dock of the boathouse will be available to the public about 75% of the time while the team's not practicing. We're also planning to operate learn to row camps for various communities. We do a lot of work with returning citizens, and have talked about doing camps for them, obviously for kids in DC, for other communities. And the team has long wanted to do that, and we just haven't had our own facility to accommodate that. So we're really excited about providing that as well. And also just to flag, this is the vast majority of the use will be from March to November. The harbor master typically closes the river to kind of small, like kayaks and paddle boards in those months. The team might be able to practice, but we're kind of at the discretion of the harbor master. And so just in terms of Water Street, we've had really positive conversations, and I know people don't say that much, but with DDOT, in terms of how to look at this stretch of Water Street, which if you've been down there now is really chaotic. I mean, it's been chaotic for years. It's especially chaotic right now with all the construction and the work that DC Water is doing to the west of the aqueduct. So it's kind of a good time actually to look at what this could look like going forward. The primary need or priority from DDOT's perspective was making sure that highly, highly used bike lane is protected and not impacted. But understanding that there is already some boathouse use in that area with Potomac Boat Club, they frequently are loading and unloading their shells onto trailers on really just using the street right now. And then obviously we will be adding some to that. We don't anticipate we're looking at like 6 times a semester probably of having to load and unload. So this isn't going to be an everyday thing or even an every week thing. But we needed to make sure that there was a safe way for our students to do that, and also for the bicycle traffic to continue as much as possible. And so this is a survey we had done of that stretch of Water Street. There's not a lot to highlight here because there's very little actual definition in this space other than the bike lane, which goes along here. There's no physical protection to any of this stretch of the bike lane till you get almost all the way through the Key Bridge. And it is, the striping is not been updated in a while. That again, a priority for DDOT was strengthening the infrastructure around that bike lane. So this is what we've worked through with DDOT and what will be in our public space application. You can see the footprint of the boathouse is here. We will rebuild the sidewalk on the stretch in front of the boathouse right now. Again, if you've seen it, it's a little uneven, informal, so that we will do that. And then with the bike lane, we'll plan to have it painted green. I'm sure you've seen bike lanes around the city that have that kind of bright green paint to really delineate them. And then we'll plan to have a physical barrier for this stretch of the bike lane. It can't go further west because there are private townhouses here that access their parking. And then the Potomac Boat Club is here. And again, they're needing to access their space. But we'll have a physical barrier here and then have that pickup again under the bridge. Our curb cut is here, and then this area will need to just be striped. And then what we're looking at is a boat loading zone on the north side of Water Street, that will be, a no parking zone and where our trailers will park while we load and unload them. And then this is just so you can understand how the shells, which are 60 feet long, they'll come out of the boathouse, kind of get turned around and come up a ramp on the east side of the boathouse and get turned around to get into this loading zone. And so we've submitted a transportation management plan to, have people on site, probably Georgetown Police on site as well, to help pause that traffic while the boats come out in the street. And the whole process might take an hour, but one shell at a time can come out, traffic can continue, another shell, traffic can continue. So we're not talking about a long disruption. And then similarly, this is how the trailers will exit this storage area. They'll come out and get turned around and then parked in the loading zone for the shells to be loaded on them. So where we are in terms of our zoning application is obviously we're coming to you because it includes a campus plan amendment to add the boathouse site to our campus plan. It will get extended from the car barn south to include this site. We will need a special exception in our zoning application for education use in the 100-year floodplain, and then variance relief around waterfront setbacks. Obviously, a boathouse has to be on the water. It can't be set back, especially in this constrained area. And then we will need relief from the green area ratio requirements. The site is extremely constrained. It would not be feasible to have a flat roof or a green roof in this space. We did talk with OGB about the possibility of having solar shingles on the site, and they were enthusiastic about us exploring that. But the Commission on Fine Arts did not like that approach and asked us to stick with the standing seam metal roof that was our other option. So we have not been able to pursue that. And even with that, frankly, it would have been still almost impossible to meet the green area ratio requirements. But without it, we really can't get close. And so we are here seeking a resolution from you all in support of the campus plan amendment and zoning application, and we will come back as often as you'd like to hear from us, and answer any questions you have. Yes.
Commissioner Elkins?
On the loading zone,
Mhm.
which you're going to use 6 times a semester, is that going to be no parking for the year round, just for 6 times when you're going to use it, or could people? I'm not sure. I'm not familiar enough to know how much in demand that would be for parking, but
Yeah, it's not currently available for public parking, so we would not be taking away any parking spots. And again, the Potomac Boat Club is currently kind of informally sometimes using the street itself to unload and load. So this would provide a safer spot for them to do it. I think they probably maybe on a smaller scale, a few boats at a time as opposed to 12 boats at a time. But they're undergoing that process almost weekly, I think. So the consensus from DDOT was wanting to have a set aside space for that activity to occur in a more formal fashion, because otherwise we would be, in the street there are 2 lanes of traffic through here. So if people were parked there, it would, and trying to stop them on certain days or certain times of the day would be challenging.
okay, thank you.
Commissioner Duncan?
My apologies if this was answered last time because I was not at our meeting. But the guy or the outfit that runs the concessions and the rental thing, that this space where you are they going to be open and moved? And who is helping them to move? And who
So
are they going to be downtime?
They're under contract with the Park Service, and we're in active conversations around the timing of that work, the DC water work on the site where they'll be moving. The Park Service has committed to having them be able to continue operating if there is some brief period where we're ready to begin construction, but the DC water work hasn't finished. So the idea is to have that be as seamless as possible, but they will be just, 50 to 100 yards further west from their current location. Do you want me to go? I can show you again.
No, I saw where it was going to be. I was more
Okay.
interested in like the downtime and where they're going to be up and running before all of this. But I'm hearing from you is we're waiting for DC Water to finish what they need to do before they can move.
Right. So they will stay at their current location for the next few years and as we go through entitlements and permitting. Um, and then when we're ready to begin construction is when they will move. And the timing may align, it may not completely align, but again, the Park Service is committed to keeping them operational somewhere, if there is some overlap.
Okay. And I would just like to state for the record, I think to not try and put solar panels on here because of the way something looks, I think it's a terrible idea, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, and it was interesting because, OG these are solar shingles, so they really look like they're kind of meant to mimic like slate shingles, which is why OGB was interested in exploring it. They haven't approved solar panels because of the look, but so OGB was very enthusiastic. I just want to give them due credit. It was the Commission on Fine Arts that did not want us to pursue that.
Commissioner Blumenthal?
Thank you. Thank you to everyone from Georgetown for the presentation and really commend the additional thought that went in to upgrading the Crescent Trail in front of the boathouse, which was a question that came up the last time you presented to us. It looks like a great improvement. I wondered two things I wanted to ask about. One is, will there be a disruption of the Crescent Trail traffic during the ultimate construction of this, which I think your slide said was at this point 2028? And the reason I ask is that you may be aware, I think our community is not well aware, that the Crescent Trail is going to be resurfaced during, they say, 2027, or at least it'll begin in 2027, which will have all sorts of detours and partial closure of the trail during that year, which, unfortunately, all the chaos that the regular users of it are experiencing now will be probably worse farther upstream. I just wondered if that factors into your planning at all.
Yeah, that's really a great question because we've already started thinking about, I mean, the space, as you can see, is incredibly constrained with the Whitehurst Freeway, on one side, private townhouses on one side, and then the Key Bridge boat or the Key Bridge. Um, and our capital projects team is they're not quite there yet, but they've thought about, are we going to need to have a barge with a crane on it? Like, are we going to need to approach some of this work from the water side? So I don't know if that's where we'll land, but they're already considering that as a potential option just because of the constraints of the space.
Right. I mean, as I understand it, I believe their plan is to work from east to west. In other words, from the trailhead that you are 50 yards from out to in the direction of the DC border in that order. And when that first phase happens at some point, and I don't remember exactly the route, but they're going to redirect bike traffic onto the towpath. And I
Okay.
don't know if I fear that that's going to happen before you are permitted and ready to do this work. But I don't know exactly where that'll happen, but if it happens, it may divert bike traffic around that area.
Oh, if the
Which is why
timing
I
aligned.
asked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really helpful point. We have weekly calls with the Park Service on this project, and I will definitely flag that.
Okay. And then I just very briefly want to just compliment the very minor detail about how you foresee encouraging those who use this boathouse, the Georgetown students, to get there by bicycle. Um, Kudos to you all for that. I'll just repeat, I'll do it every time this comes up at a public meeting, and I think Commissioner Sinkowitz may do the same. And there is a way to make the pathway or to make the route for Georgetown students from where they are to this boathouse better and safer. And it probably requires convincing our colleagues at DDOT and the National Park Service to make some changes they've been reluctant to make. And I pitch it every time. If the ANCs and Georgetown unite on a plan, I think we can move our governments in that direction.
Yeah, and I do believe because actually our coaches were like, oh, they're just going to run. They'd have to go all the way, east to get back here. But I do think there's a plan for the stairs in this area to have like a bike ramp added along the side of them so you could walk your bike down. We've heard that's underway or the planning is underway. And we can keep you updated if we hear more on that. That would be the easiest way because otherwise you really do have to kind of go further down and cross. And there's
I mean,
very few bike
yeah,
ways, by bike to cross
right.
through
I mean,
here.
I'm being a little oblique, but I'm talking about um, the trestle bridge and the tunnel and the path between them and the sidewalk and all of that. Um, it's a daunting route, a bit of a zigzag if you're a student or faculty. And I think over the long haul, that can be made better, but it would require all of us working together toward a plan, and which is much bigger than this, which is complicated enough.
Thank you.
Sure. Yep.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Elkins?
I wonder how firm the Arts Commission was against these solar shingles. Is there any chance that if ANC 3D and maybe others, environmental groups, sort of said, "Hey, we really would like to see this kind of installation, and we don't have that in very many places, and we appreciate the fact that Georgetown is willing to do it," and or do you think it's just they're just adamant and would not be?
Yeah, they were very firm. They said not to bother coming back if we wanted to explore, if we wanted to explore that further. So, unfortunately, it was a hard pass because we were getting very excited about the possibility.
Well, maybe Georgetown could look for some other place.
Well, we are. I mean, just Corey's probably already filled you in, but we were replacing the solar shingles on the ICC building on campus, which is a massive, massive number of sorry, not shingles, solar panels. So that will really increase the production on campus.
That's great. No, I did not know about that. I'm glad to hear that.
Derry Allen has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. Um, about 20 years ago, I was part of a group that was working very hard on all of this boathouse zone, and I'm absolutely delighted to see that the progress that you've made and where you are now. Um, and I think you've addressed a number of problems with sensitivity. Can you tell me also what is happening with any other boathouses that might be built along here? I know GW had been very interested before in building a boathouse, and the Thompson's Boat Center has been crowded for a long time.
Yeah, so there are, I mean, in addition to, this project will kind of activate two additional sites, the site where Keybridge boats will move, and then the site to the east of the bridge where the goal is for the city to provide increased access to the waterfront. I think for them to commit right now to building a community boathouse is challenging given the financial situation of the city, but that they'll be very limited in what they can do on that site, and it has to be about public access to the water. We do know in Arlington, there's a public boathouse being built across the river.
Yeah.
And I mean, one other aspect of this project is that we are currently the biggest users of Thompson's in terms of the space that we use there for our shells, and we'll be moving out. So that will provide a lot of additional capacity at Thompson's, either for other schools or individuals. But that will be a big asset for Thompson's in terms of their capacity.
Yeah. So GW will be staying there then for a while.
That's my understanding. And actually, Sherry Rutherford's on the call, who knows the history of this even better than I do. But I know they had been exploring this space again a couple decades ago, or within the last decade, it's at some point. But I don't believe they have any plans to pursue their own boathouse.
At one point, they did have a plan for a boathouse just downstream of the bridge, where you're talking about a public
That's correct.
facility there.
Yep, and they had looked at these townhouses as well as a possible site for some boathouse activity too.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone. Is there any other questions? So what I'd like to do is to bring up the letter to the Zoning Commission, and I'd like to move that we adopt this letter. Is there a second?
Second?
Commissioner Duncan seconds. Is there any discussion on this letter?
I do have a question. Is there any opposition to this? Is anyone from ANC 3D going to be needed to testify at the zoning hearing?
We haven't received any opposition for the boathouse. ANC 2E is supported unanimously, as has the Georgetown Community Partnership.
Okay.
All right. So should we go ahead and vote?
Call a question.
All right. All in favor of this boathouse proposal? That's all 5 of us here, 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So let's move to the George Washington University shuttle capacity. We have a couple of people from George Washington here.
Yes, my colleague Charlie Worst is here. He is the Director of Transportation. Thank you again for allowing us to make this presentation. What the university is proposing is a modification to the Condition 4 of the campus plan regarding the VEX shuttle service. We're proposing an increase the size of the shuttles. We presented this at yesterday's ANC 3D yesterday's Mount Vernon community meeting, and we are presenting here tonight as required by the campus plan. I'm going to let my colleague Charlie do most of the talking about what the rationale is for the request for this change. So I'm going to turn this over to Charlie, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions. If I could, I would be able to share an image of the screen of what we're looking to do. Okay, Charlie.
Yes, thanks, Gavin, and good evening, everyone, and thank you for your time this evening. So again, as Kevin said, my name is Charlie Wers. I am the Director of Transportation Logistics for the university. In what we are asking for, and you'll see the graphic on the screen, we currently are running 30 passenger minibuses that support the VEX between both Foggy Bottom and Mount Vernon. So the reason for this request to mix in larger minibuses, that being 45 passenger capacity, is during the school year, we run into instances where we have heavy passenger loads, and that's a primarily result of traffic patterns, student traffic patterns, really all at the same time, traveling between campuses. So our effort is to be able to handle that capacity with this larger minibus. And just to give you some highlights of the differences, they are very similar. And again, they are both minibuses. The length is approximately 10 feet longer on the 45 passenger. The width and height is essentially the same. And there's probably about 6 feet increase in wheelbase for the larger bus. But again, these are minibuses, and you'll see they're built on Ford chassis and with different GVWs to support that. We feel and believe not only will we solve this load capacity, but we actually believe it'll reduce the number of buses that we would need to accomplish this. So in essence, that's going to reduce the number of trips per day between the campuses. That is really, in essence, and I want to be respectful of time here, that is really what we're trying to do. Again, this is a mixture of both size buses. The traffic pattern between campuses would not change. Our primary routing is as we leave 23rd around Washington Circle and the K Street service roads, and then Whitehorse Freeway, a short time on Canal versus M Street, and then Foxhall Road to Whitehaven. Alternate routes are sometimes, depending on traffic, we might use MacArthur to blend back in and to when Foxhall has different traffic situations. And again, I think that is the essence of what we have here. And I would be very happy to answer any questions you all might have for us.
All right. Questions? Commissioner Duncan?
Yes, I don't mean to bring up any unpleasantness, but we did hear from a neighbor who also happens to be the co-chair of our transportation committee, who actually has some concerns about the size of this vehicle because he has concerns about the behavior of some of your drivers. I'm just going to read you what was written to us, and I guess my goal in this is maybe during this discussion we can find out a way to quickly communicate with the school when we do see problems with the drivers. That is set in stone. But this is the gist of numerous times I have observed drivers of the existing shuttles engage in unsafe as well as unsocial driving behavior, including speeding up Foxhall Road to pass other cars before turning left on Whitehaven, often cutting off other drivers in the process, and running red lights shortly after turning yellow. The consequences for the driver and passengers of the bus as a large vehicle are far less than those of the occupants of the automobiles, or as in this case, often for me, as a cyclist. Even larger buses are likely to exacerbate these safety risks. I would like to say that the idea of larger buses and less routes is appealing to me because of emissions. You know, if you don't have the larger bus, technically you're going to have to run more of the smaller buses. But I would like to, what are some ways we can quickly communicate with the school? I know that I can text Kevin if I saw a problem, but if there is there some way for the community to express their concerns to the school if they do happen to see a driver that might be a little aggressive?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I'll put it in the chat. One of the several inboxes I check every morning is called TVE at gwu.edu. So the TVE is the Verne Express. And that's the quickest way. And so, as I said, I check that at least a couple of times each day. And it would allow me to quickly address those concerns. And then, of course, take those concerns and address those with our shuttle provider.
That would be great. And you're going to put that email in the chat?
Yes, I will.
All right, thank you.
Yes, it's clearly in our best interest to have drivers who are driving safely. So that's not just a concern for the community, it's a concern for the university. And if this commissioner had seen these issues, I wish he had reached out earlier because we would have corrected it, primarily because it's a public safety hazard and we're not served by having dangerous drivers.
Commissioner Elkins?
Kevin, could you explain the procedural situation we're in? I have not read your campus plan, but it sounds like that all you need is an approval from ANC 3D, and you don't need to go to the zoning commission. Could you explain that?
Yes, according to condition 4, the things that we have to do, the procedural elements that we have to do to satisfy this request is to present it at a community meeting, which we did last night, and then ask for approval from the ANC. It doesn't require us to go to the zoning commission.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
About how often do these shuttles run?
They run during the school year during peak time, which is between 7 a.m. And 8 p.m. They run departures are every 10 minutes from each campus. And when we say every 10 minutes, that's on the hour, on the 10, the 20, 30, 40. So it's always predicated on that. And then after at 8 p.m. until 12 a.m., it's running every 20 minutes from each campus. And then the weekends are the same. It runs every 20 minutes from each campus.
Very good. So there's just some times of day where it's more crowded than others.
Yes, most definitely. Again, what we tend to see during the school year, and this is a question of class schedules as well, that student travel patterns, it seem to be, it's largely uh, during certain parts of as we get into, as the morning starts to kick off, and then that's when we see that first surge, and then we see it throughout the mid-afternoon. And remember, we have students coming from Foggy Bottom attending classes at Mount Vernon as well. So we see the surge go into the early part of the afternoon, sometimes into the late afternoon.
Commissioner Blumenthal?
Just wanted to ask a question. My daughter attended School Without Walls High School on the GW campus, graduated about 5 years ago. But when she was a student at the time, I know that GW extended a sort of privilege to Walls students. They had a GW ID and they were able to use the shuttle from our neighborhood to get down to class and back. Does that still exist? If it does, it's something the other commissioners should be aware of because it is
Sure.
a extra
Unfortunately,
benefit.
that doesn't exist anymore. Right now, as a requirement of our campus plan, you have to be 18 years of age or older to ride the shuttle by yourself.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other questions? So what I'd like to do is to make a motion for the letter in favor of supporting the university on increasing the shuttle capacity in their campus plan. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Duncan seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? 5, that's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Let's move to the issue of renaming 48th Place Spence's Way. That's in my SMD. And so what I'd like to do is to move that we adopt the letter in favor. And then I'm going to ask Commissioner Duncan to explain. Is there a second? Commissioner Simkowitz seconds. Commissioner Duncan?
So this has been on the PCA board's mind since Spence passed away. And in order for a street to be named in honor of someone, they have to have been deceased for 2 years. And we have passed that mark. And they reached out to Councilmember Fruman's office. He knew Spencer also wanted to do it. And the PCA wrote a letter. It's also on our website. And the council would like a letter from the ANC. Keep in mind that this is 48th Place where the farmers market is, which Spence was the market manager and was involved from the very beginning for a very long time. He did so much for this community. There are no addresses that are on 48th Place that will be affected by this. And it is my understanding that the 48th Place sign will also remain there and Spence's Way will be right underneath it. It is a common practice in the city. So I'm hoping everybody supports this.
And I'd just like to add my voice that not only is it a good idea, but it's not going to interfere with anybody because the buildings on both sides have MacArthur addresses. So no 911 would ever be called to 48th Place. And the zoning maps and the property ownership maps and so forth, nothing needs to change because this doesn't apply to any of the properties. It's just the street, and, which is a little unusual. There's simply no address on this street. Commissioner Elkins?
Well, as the commissioner who's now sitting in the seat that Spence occupied and who graciously stepped aside when I said I'd like to run. I fully support this. I'm joking, but I support it because he was such a force, a very positive force in the community, and I support it for that reason.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? 5 in favor, that's unanimous. Let's move to the next thing, which is the letter in favor of the 4th of July parade. Commissioner Duncan?
Motion on the floor is to transmit a letter to the city to support the Palisades 4th of July parade.
I second that.
This is the annual big event. We would like to support, the PCA has actually already gone in front of the city to do their presentation to all the agencies, but they would like to transmit this letter. It helps them out, makes it a little easier.
Very good. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? 5 in favor, that's unanimous. Let's move to the Hawk signal for 4800 block of Mass Avenue. Commissioner Duncan?
Motion on the floor is to transmit the letter to DDOT with our comments on the Hawk signal NOI for the 4800 block of Mass Ave.
And I'll second that.
So, as we know, where the Superfresh site is, there's an apartment building going up. And if you recall on Massachusetts Avenue, in the AU Park side, there's a PNC Bank, and then there's an alley roadway that runs through there. The building is going to be behind that. As part of this project that this ANC took up years and years ago, they were going to do a hawk signal in the middle of this absurdly long block. So the block where Millie's and Crate and Barrel is an incredibly long block. It goes from 49th to Fulton, I think is what that is. And people cross in the middle. I have crossed in the middle. Apparently, this hawk signal was part of the original plan that this ANC took up. One of the things that we asked DDOT was the hawk signal, for those who are listening who don't know, is a pedestrian activated light to cross. And it's actually a light. It will turn red. Very similar. It's a hawk signal is up at American University right before you get to Ward Circle. So you're going to put one of these in the middle of the block. We asked if this would be timed with one of the lights going the other way. And we just got back right before this meeting a note from DDOT that said it will not be timed with either of the lights, but they think it's going to go off so infrequently and be so short for someone to cross that it's not going to mess up any of the traffic. But they said they could, have it delayed with the cycle of one of the lights if it became a problem. Our letter, as it is written now, is asking them to time it with one of the lights, and I would like to keep those comments in there. In addition, it appears on the plan, the service road on the Millie side of the road, there's one place near where this is going to be where there's two cuts into the service lane, and it looks like they're going to close one of those cuts. We've asked them to add a parking space if there's room.
Very good. Any questions or comments? All right. All in favor of this letter? 5, that's unanimous. Let's move to the last official action, which is concerning bioretention. Commissioner Elkins?
Well, I just wanted to initiate a discussion about this and see whether we want to take any action. So here's my view of it. DDOT came to us many years ago and said we really need to do bioretention for stormwater purposes. And this commission got on board and saying controlling stormwater is important. And even though our neighbors will find these areas somewhat inconvenient, this is a worthy cause. And so we supported it strongly, and we participated very heavily in the planning of exactly where they should be and what they should look like. And we did protest that we thought that the Achilles heel here was the maintenance of them, and that we made a fuss about that. And we've taken various actions with regard to that, unsuccessfully, I guess I would say. Maybe others know differently, but that's been my impression. Um, so we sold this to the neighborhood. We are as involved, in my view, as much as DDOT. They presented this as bioretention. Then, as you all know, they recently decided that they did not have the money for the maintenance, and that they were going to turn some of them into traffic calming devices. I think an objective view of these ones that are not bioretention would be that is not where you would put a traffic calming device. They intrude into the roadway for no purpose. I'm not sure, perhaps Tricia and others know whether DDOT plans to plant anything in these, or do they? Okay. But I think we can be assured that they're not going to maintain them after the 18 months because even if we're lucky and DOEE gets the money, DOEE is going to say that has absolutely nothing to do with our mission. Those are traffic calming. They're not bioretention, and we're in the stormwater business. So,
Just a point of clarification, Commissioner
sure.
Elkins.
Yes, please.
3 of the installations were built as bioretention. There's one next to the Korean Embassy, there's one at 49th and Glenbrook, and then there's another one somewhere. They told me those are going to be filled with bioretention plantings because they didn't, I guess they pulled the plug in the middle of the project and those were already constructed. The other ones are just going to be tree boxes that are grass. And DDOT told me DDOT's going to be mowing those.
I can't get grass to grow in my tree lawn. I'm not sure we're going to see them in these tree boxes. Does anybody doubt me? Or maybe you're all successful with your tree boxes. Um, so,
Well, typically a tree box is the responsibility of the homeowner.
right.
But there's like a gutter between these. I guess
That's right.
sometimes, and gosh, they're on like the side of people's houses that a homeowner might not even know that they're responsible for that. We're talking really big lots here. Well, I would like you to go on because I'm hoping you're coming up with an idea.
Well, I want to ask, well, let me just sort of conclude by saying I think we've been had. Our credibility was used appropriately to sell this to the community, and we put our reputations online because this is not what people would normally want in front of their lots, etc. And then they've turned into something that has absolutely no environmental benefit and has, as far as in my layman's view, has no traffic calming benefit as well. And therefore, the department is really faking it when they tell us that these are traffic calming. That is simply a lie, if I may say so. So what I want to know is, I don't live in Spring Valley. I don't drive through there very often, so they don't bother me. But are we hearing anything from the community? Maybe they all think they're probably going to be bioretention areas. They haven't noticed that there's a channel between the curb and the area. Um, one of my colleagues over in 34G wrote a fairly strong letter to 34G Commission, essentially saying that uh, she almost ran into one of these traffic calming things that had no signs on it, just in the middle of the street. So these are not only just non-traffic calming, they are traffic hazards unless they are appropriately indicated to a driver. Um, so I guess I'm concerned that the department has essentially thumbed their nose at us and said, no, we're not going to remove them. And I'm wondering whether we're going to take that and what we could do. One radical idea, which none of us can do because we're commissioners, is somebody could sue the department for potentially. I cannot find the NOI, but if we could find the NOI, I suspect we'll find not a single word about traffic calming. And even if it does mention it in passing, that is not how it was sold. So they basically have violated, I think, the procedural requirements. When they decided to turn these into traffic calming devices, they needed to put out another NOI and allow us comment on it. And I think we'd say, these are not traffic calming, they're in the wrong place. So my concern is they have essentially polluted our neighborhood with things that don't work, may be dangerous, probably will not be maintained, uh, provide no benefit to the community, and in fact are a detriment. And they're just saying, well, we just changed our mind in the middle of the contract. And it seems to me that that's just unacceptable.
Can I respond to some of your things? 'Cause I am
You may,
clearly
yes,
frustrated.
you're in charge of this project, not
And
me.
I'm glad Mr. Jerry Allen has raised his hand because last month they know how we feel. I feel like we're missing some information here. They told us time and time again that they have a consent decree with the EPA. And I am wondering if that consent decree went away.
Highly unlikely.
And while you're addressing this, how many of these are there that are not bioretention that are just going to be
Okay,
grass?
that is an excellent question because they did not install even all of the things. It's just the ones that I can see. So, um, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I've seen 9, but there were a lot more. They did abandon the project. And I would also like to say, we saw from DDOT all of the TSI requests that 3D has put forth that are just sitting out there in the TSI system. We have more open, unaddressed TSIs, I think, than anywhere else I saw in the entire ward, maybe even in the whole city. And then they're talking about doing this rando traffic calming. It's for millions of dollars. Infuriating. Um, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
But these locations that they're going to make grass were supposed to be bioretention, and it's just cheaper for them to make them grass.
Yeah, the maintenance is a lot less because you have to maintain the drainage and um that it's stupid.
It's not going to be maintained. It's basically going to be a bunch of weeds. I don't know on what time scale, but at some point it's going to be weeds and it's going to be ugly. And here we have, I mean, uh, we have a neighborhood where people care about their yards. They maintain them. They actually spend a lot of money in many cases to have somebody else maintain them.
Many
They
cases,
really
every
care
case.
about
It's
it.
like the most beautiful neighborhood.
So, so this is really a blight on a beautiful neighborhood. Um, and I think if our neighbors knew what was going on, they'd be up in arms. But I think Mr. Allen wants to say something. So
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Allen.
Well, thank you. I very much agree with what Commissioner Elkins has just said. We've been had. We did go out and explain to people that this was a good idea for the sake of the Potomac River. Um, Now, I testified about this uh, problem before the budget at the budget hearing for the DDOT about 10 days ago. And Councilmember Charles Allen said in response to us, he said, you know, I'm really upset about this too. He said DDOT has a habit of building things and then not maintaining them. And he didn't seem to think that DDOT was going to move on this. He seemed pretty discouraged, but he said, you know, I'm glad to have your testimony because the next time that we have one of these issues, I'll have something else I can wave at them. Um, Now, that said, my thought is that uh, the longer we let these things just sit there without doing something more, the harder it will be to get them moved. Um, and with the ones that are presently set up to be, to function as bioretention bump outs, um, I think, obviously they should be. Uh, the other ones, maybe instead of asking them to be torn out, we should just ask them to modify them so that they can be used for the original purpose. And that shouldn't be a major big deal. And there are places where actually with stormwater, and I'm thinking of a place on 49th Street right by Spring Valley Park, where I think this will make the stormwater problem worse because the water comes down the hill to the bottom, and that's where these retention things are, and it, it's going to have to go around them, and it's going to make everything messier. So I don't have a 3-point plan right now. I happy that if we want to take this up again in the Transportation Committee, where we have been talking about it before, um, I have been thinking that if nothing else happens, maybe it needs to come to a point of having somebody start a petition or something like that. It's a lot of work. If you can avoid it, all the better. But I'm just to go back to where I started. I completely agree with Commissioner Elkins that we've been had, and this is not a good thing for us. It's not the most terrible thing that could ever happen to us, but what's the point? They spend a lot of money and make things worse.
There is one solution that came up at a recent meeting between ANC commissioners across the city and Chairman Mendelson. The Department Director Jackson for DOEE was part of that meeting, and Commissioner Sherman from 34G opined that he had had a very good working relationship with DOEE and DDOT, and that his community had developed an agreement to have residents maintain these bioretention facilities, and that it was a cooperative effort. And I had some sense that DOE was at least providing technical assistance, if not actual physical assistance. I then raised my hand and said, "Well, we've got the situation," and I described our situation. And the director said, "Well, I'd be glad to take this up with DDOT if you want to write me a note about it." He didn't know where Spring Valley was, so we'd have to start from scratch. Of course, I don't know where a lot of neighborhoods are in DC either, so I'm just joking. But he did not know where Spring Valley was. So if we thought that we could have enough of a community effort to maintain these after, I would hope after the 18 months or I think it's actually 2 years when the contractor is supposed to maintain them. Um, and we could get the contractor to essentially turn these into bioretention areas. I think that might not be that difficult. I think this might be just a little, well, maybe it is. Maybe they didn't dig them deep enough.
They didn't dig at all.
Okay. So, I mean, so basically what DDOT did was by saying they don't have the money to maintain it, they probably recouped a lot of money from these contractors. So, what are they doing with our money? So anyway, in theory, they could fix these into bioretention areas, and we take care of their excuse that they're not going to maintain them, and we say, no, we will after the contractor no longer is, and please put all the plants in. Now, what would happen? Well, some neighbors would do it, and some neighbors wouldn't, and then they would become weeds. But is that different than, that's better than having them all turn to weeds? Um, I mean, we're going to have to maintain the ones that are bioretention, I think, because DOEE doesn't have any money to maintain them. So after 18 months, we're in charge of them already. So all we're doing is, well, it's more than that, but I mean, we got 9 other places the community would have to adopt. But anyway, I just wanted to put that forward. There is an alternative that would actually be good for the environment. It would be part of what we actually sold these things for.
So Commissioner
Duncan.
Elkins, so I like this idea of letting the neighbors do this, but I feel like this is something that we're going to have a discussion with them like 18 months, 2 years from now. Like, and then we're going to be spending the next 2 years making sure that DDOT actually, sods these things and puts in the plantings. I mean, I guess could a neighbor sue DDOT? I know the ANC can't.
Commissioner Duncan? So what do these look like now? Is it like a curb around an area in the street?
Okay, so picture a curb bump out.
Yeah.
Except for instead of it being all concrete, there is right now it's mulch, but they said there's going to be like sod in the middle. But the bump out is away from the curb. So there's the sidewalk, the tree box, the curb, a gutter,
Okay.
and then this thing that just sort of so there's a gutter in between the tree box and this tree box.
Yeah, understood. So, how about planting perennials so it doesn't require that much effort by the neighbors instead of grass? Grass requires effort, but there are things you can plant that are reasonably attractive and you don't have to do very much.
I mean,
I'm no gardener, but there are things that could be done.
right. This is the thing. DDOT is supposed to plant this stuff and then this contractor is supposed to have water trucks that come around all summer and establish whatever they plant. That is like part of the deal. I mean, ideally, the neighbors who front that stuff would take it over.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the bioretention plantings that require a great deal of attention. I'm talking about things that grow. You water them for a while, but then they grow.
Yeah.
I've got stuff that you can't stop it from growing, and it's perfectly attractive.
I think we have a comment from Mr. Langston.
Yeah, so hey, without piling on, first a question for the structures that have not been installed so far, are those now unfunded or are they yet to come? And I'll pause for that question.
They have stopped all hardscape construction and pulled everything off the site. So there's no more installations will be built.
Okay, so that's good for my street, but for other neighbors in Spring Valley, I mean, the idea of planting junipers or whatever in what otherwise would be a parking space is it's nuts. But the point about getting things to grow in tree boxes, it's not easy, and there are some perennials that will do it. But grass is not the answer. It's there there isn't enough water, and there's too much shade, thankfully, in the neighborhood.
I moved to bring this up at the Transportation Committee, and hopefully we might be able to have some more side conversations with some people at DDOT who can tell us exactly what's going on, because they've been sitting there with dirt in them for a while.
Okay, I second that motion.
What
Any
about asking for, well, excuse me, go ahead. Well, what about asking
Yeah.
for,
I would just add that uh, these eyesores are in quite large quantities around the neighborhood, not just in front of neighbors' houses, but in front of schools and other things, and none of them have turned out well.
what about asking for a meeting with Kirschbaum about this?
I have a call. We've been missing each other. Yeah, I will set something up.
I think, I mean, she's a neighbor. I mean, she has to run the department and worry about her budget and everything else. But on the other hand, she's a sensitive person, I think. So, I mean, it's not like she would sit there and say, I'm not listening to you. She might feel she's under constraints, but I think it's worth having a conversation about it. And
um,
I think we need to express our anger in a polite way about what they've done to us. They've done to a beautiful neighborhood.
I think we need an inventory of them. We need to
I
know,
can do that. I go over
yeah,
there all the time.
yeah. We need to be able to say they are here. Okay. So, shall we bump it to the Transportation Committee and simultaneously try to get the secretary, the director of the department to have a meeting? All in favor of that? 5 votes in favor. It's unanimous. All right, let's move to the treasurer's report.
I wonder whether that could be brought up. I don't have it immediately here, but I will report on it. It's very simple anyway. Let me just myself. Oh, here we are. Okay, so we did spend some money on transcript and for our assistance from Catherine, and we also paid for our contract with Go Vocal. We agreed to that contract back in February, but our payment was not due until the middle of April, so we paid that. So we now have almost $41,000 in the checking account, and about $45,000 in the savings account. And it doesn't show there, these reports that that are reported out for us don't show all the information. But that does bring to mind just because we're talking about a lot of money, $85,000, that if commissioners or members of the public know of situations where a organization with a little extra money could make a much bigger difference in the community that would serve the community as a whole. Um, I think this commission can receive such grant applications and can make a decision. The one that we did decide for the library, apparently they never got go ahead to do that, so that money is still sitting in the bank. And so we may have thought that we've given more grants than we actually have. Well, we've given them, but we haven't had to pay for them, pay for that one. So um, at one point when we wrote our grant application, we did say that we would actually solicit grants officially. I'm not sure we've ever done that. I think it's been more on an individual commissioner finding, hearing about a need and doing that. But it would be up to my colleagues here. I'm only the treasurer, but if people are amenable, we could put something in um, all the listservs that basically says we are open to projects that serve the community um, if people want to make an application, but there cannot be a duplication of city services.
And you have to be a 501c3.
Nope, no, you don't.
Oh, you don't?
I don't think so. I could be wrong about it. No, I don't. I've never heard that requirement.
Okay.
No, for instance, you could be a civic association. I'm not sure, for instance, I'm picking on William Clarkson here, who isn't here. But let's say, I just take that as an example, the Spring Valley Neighbors Association. I don't know whether they're 501c3 or not. Doesn't matter, I think. If they had a project that they were going to run um, a welcome to fall um, event in the neighborhood and invite all the children, et cetera, et cetera. And we thought that that was a worthwhile thing to do, which we won't judge ahead of time. I think they're eligible for a grant. They need to have a bank account uh, in the name of the organization. For instance, we could not write a check. This is an issue that's come up recently. We cannot write a check to William Clarkson, just to pick on our friend William. Um, that would be, wouldn't be for the organization. So there has to be a check has to be written to the organization, but I don't think they have to be a 501c3.
Very good. So I can never remember this. We don't need to approve the
We
treasury.
don't need to approve it.
Okay.
I guess I will. Let me make a movement and a motion and see whether I'm off the top of my head. I move that we publish in each of the three listservs that ANC would be open to grant applications. One of the things that motivates me is I hear talk from across town of, there are a lot of ANCs that have a lot of money in the bank, and we don't have any over here in our ANC, and we wish we could get it from those rich ANCs. And it seems to me part of the reason there are two reasons why we have a lot of money in the bank. One is Troy Kravitz completely revised the way in which we managed our money, and I give him credit for that. And secondly, we have not given very many grants. Anyway, I so move. I don't know whether there's a second or not.
Commissioner Simkowitz seconds. All in favor of that motion? That's unanimous, 5-0.
I will compose something, Mr. Chairman, and run it by you. Would that be appropriate?
Yes, very good.
Okay.
The secretary's minutes, Commissioner Duncan.
In the absence of the secretary, I move to approve the April minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any comments on the minutes?
I did not.
All right, let's call the question.
All right, all in favor of approving the minutes? 5 votes in favor. It's unanimous. So the next meeting is June 3rd. And is there any other business before we adjourn?
Well, can we just, what do we know is coming up then?
On June 3rd?
Yeah, possibly the St. Patrick's.
Yeah, the Office of Finance is going to make a presentation.
Right.
The
Right.
Office of Planning is going to make a presentation. There's the 5059 Glenbrook Terrace will probably come up. There is a liquor license renewal for Addie Basson, which will come up. And I can't think of anything else.
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right, is there anything else, or shall we adjourn? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Everyone.